The desert wind carried with it the smell of dust, sage, and something else, something that made the Apache warrior Dakota's heart beat heavier in his chest. As he knelt beside the shallow grave he had uncovered at the edge of the canyon, he had been tracking coyotes, their prints leading him to this place, but what he found was not prey. It was horror. The earth had been disturbed recently, too soft, too uneven, and when he pressed his hand to it, he felt warmth rising from beneath. He dug with urgency, his strong hands clawing away the soil until at last he struck cloth, coarse and rough, wrapped around what seemed to be a body. He hesitated. Death was sacred, and disturbing the dead was not a thing done lightly. Yet something inside told him this was no ordinary burial. He pulled the cloth back, his breath sharp as he revealed the face of a woman, pale, dirt-smeared, lips trembling though her eyes remained closed. She was alive, alive in a grave. As the fire in his camp later burned low, he laid her carefully on a blanket, covering her frail body, watching her chest rise and fall shallowly as if each breath might be her last. When at last her eyes fluttered open, they were filled with a strange, haunted light. She whispered then, her voice like dry leaves on the wind, "You buried her, not me." The words chilled him more than the cold desert night. He leaned closer, confusion and dread twisting within him, and slowly he pulled the cloth away from her shoulder to check her wounds. His hands froze, and his face drained of color. The marks on her skin, deep bruises around her neck, and the rawness of her fingers told a story he didn't want to believe. She had clawed her way out from beneath the soil. She gripped his wrist weakly, her eyes locking with his, and he could see the terror in them, the desperate need for someone to understand. She tried to speak more, but only coughed, her lips bleeding as they cracked. He gave her water, guiding her hand, his mind racing with the truth her words carried. If she was alive, then who was it that had been buried? Who lay beneath that earth in her place? The fire popped, shadows stretched, and Dakota realized he had stumbled upon something darker than fate. The following days were a test of endurance for both of them. Dakota led her carefully across the barren land, giving her the little food he had, letting her drink from his flask before he took any himself. She was weak, her body trembling each time she tried to walk, yet her spirit held a fierceness he could not ignore. At night, when the stars blazed over the desert sky, she told him fragments of her memory. She spoke of being taken by men, their faces shadowed by cruelty, voices rough with laughter as they bound her wrists and dragged her into the night. She remembered the feel of cold earth against her skin, the weight of soil pressing down as she struggled to breathe, the silence when the last handful fell over her face, and then nothing, until she woke again, alive but buried, clawing through darkness with bloodied nails until she reached the surface, gasping, coughing, desperate, too live. Dakota listened in silence, his jaw set, his eyes heavy with the burden of her words. But what haunted him most was the sentence she repeated over and over, as if it were the only truth she could cling to. "You buried her, not me." Who was her? Who had been left in her place? He wondered if it had been her sister, a friend, or perhaps someone who merely resembled her. He could not ask, for her memory was fractured, broken by the trauma. Yet one night, when the firelight touched her shoulder, he saw something that made his blood run cold, a faint scar carved into her skin, the mark of a family long at war with his people, a family known for betrayal and blood. It dawned on him then that she may not have been buried by strangers, but by her own kin, mistaken for someone else, or worse, sacrificed in another's stead. When she caught him staring, her eyes glistened with pain. "You don't believe me, do you?" she asked softly, her voice trembling, half a plea, half an accusation. Dakota placed his hand over hers firmly, his voice low but steady, telling her that he believed not only her words, but her survival itself. The desert did not release the dead for no reason. She was alive, and that meant something greater than either of them could yet understand. She wept then, tears streaking her dirt-stained face. But they were not tears of weakness, they were the release of a soul finally believed, finally seen as more than a cursed woman risen from the grave. Dakota looked out over the endless sands and knew that the truth of who had been buried, and why, would one day surface. Until then, His path was clear: protect her, guide her, and help her reclaim the life stolen from her. Friends, if this story held you in its grip, if you felt the weight of survival and the chill of betrayal through her words, then I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Stories like these, stories of courage, mystery, and the will to rise even when the world buries you, are just the beginning. By subscribing, you won't miss the next tale that stirs the soul and reminds us of the strength hidden in even the most broken hearts.